Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you. First, a former healthcare executive makes the case for the ultimate punishment for Luigi Mangione. Sean Combs' medical issues forces a delay in his court proceedings. The D.C. airport workers, a couple of them were arrested for releasing Reagan National Crash videos. An example of how not to act in court, but some people may say worth it. Michael Jordan's son is arrested. Sam Bankman Fried parents are lobbying for a pardon for their son, SBF. This day in legal history and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Make sure you hit that little bell for notifications. And remember, you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. And before we get to the docket, a couple of announcements. First, it's Tuesday. What does that mean? We're going live. Tuesday night, live, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Please join us. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. We'll answer your questions. And then immediately following that, our Patreon members will have our Patreon show as well with a call-in number that you can partake in the call-in as well. And before we get finally to the docket, go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. If you do, you're going to be happy that you did. And remember, you can cancel at any time. But when you do have that subscription, you can do a background search on as many people as your heart desires. Anyone here in the United States. And you're going to get a report literally emailed to you while you wait. And it's going to have all types of information, email information, social media information. You're going to get whether they have a criminal history. Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they own property? Do they have judgments? Everything that you may want to know about somebody that, well, maybe that they're not going to tell you when they first meet you. Remember, information is power. Heck, it could save your life. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. And first on the docket, that's right, a former healthcare executive is making the case for the ultimate punishment for Luigi Mangione. Now, who is this former healthcare executive? Well, it happens to be present Senator from Florida, Rick Scott. And he wants Luigi Mangione to receive the death penalty for allegedly shooting the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, which ultimately killed him. Now, the senator from Florida calls the actions reprehensible, and the reaction to Thompson's death was extremely polarizing among the political community, with liberals saying it points to America's unhappiness with the U.S. healthcare systems, and conservatives calling the murder an injustice against the system. I think everybody would say it was cold-blooded, and the shooter, giving Luigi Mangione the presumption of innocence, shot the man in the back, shot Brian Thompson in the back on an open street and then fled. How is that not first-degree murder? Anyway, Senator Scott is a former healthcare industry executive, said that Mangione has not been convicted of Thompson's murder, but he does believe that the death penalty should be justified if he is in fact found guilty. Now, Senator Scott said it's obvious that the death should be the punishment due to the cold-blooded nature of the murder and the obvious vendetta that he held against the CEO that he had never met and frankly wasn't even a customer of the company. Anyway, Luigi Mangione, in the beginning, back in December, allegedly shot and killed the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, in Midtown Manhattan early morning. Scott says that in the way that he was executed, it seems obvious at that moment that the world would condemn his actions. But the senator said there's been a big push, at least in social media and the sort of the younger generation, trying to almost defend or excuse Mangione because of the problems that he sees in the healthcare industry and the insurance industry in general. The senator did say, when asked a question about his reaction to the people supporting Mangione, he says, listen, there's a group that you know believe in violence now as a way to get change, and they want you to know that you just have to condemn it and hold those people accountable for bad acts. And when ultimately asked point blank by a host to Senator Scott whether he thought the death penalty was appropriate, he said, quote, "I mean, he's not been convicted yet, but it sure looks like it was just absolutely in cold blood, and he just had a vendetta against him. So at least that's what you got to read into it," Scott said. So if that happens, is it death penalty justified? And Senator Scott said, if somebody doesn't like the way the healthcare system is being delivered, then you get in the middle of it and you change it. That's the right way of doing things. You don't go around killing people, right? We've talked about it. They've only got two defenses. They got to go some sort of heat of passion or some sort of mental health type defense in that particular case. Just as a note, why the good senator from Florida, Senator Scott, may feel this way is, guess what? He co-founded the Columbia Hospital Corporation, which later merged with another group to form Columbia HCA, and it became the nation's largest for-profit healthcare company. HCA, which is Hospital Corporation of America, remains the number one largest hospital system in the U.S. by revenue, and United Healthcare is the largest healthcare insurance company in the United States. So take it for what it's worth, ladies and gentlemen, but that's the one side. We have some people that want Luigi freed and given a medal of national medal for heroism, I guess. And then on the other hand, you have people thinking that you can't go around killing people if you don't like a company's business practices. You all decide what you think is appropriate. We're just bringing you both sides of the argument. Next, Sean P. Did he do it? Combs goes to the hospital and it delays his court proceedings. That's right, Sean P. Diddy Combs was scheduled to appear in New York federal court yesterday, but the hearing was postponed for the next 2 weeks. Apparently, the court hearing was postponed at the last minute amid reports that Combs was transported to the hospital on Thursday for an MRI for his knee, which apparently it had surgery on prior to his arrest. Anyway, the MRI was done Thursday to avoid speculation among other inmates or prison staff. Sources say Combs did not stay at the hospital overnight. Anyway, last week, the federal prosecutors filed an expanded indictment or a superseding indictment against Sean Combs, accusing the music producer of coercing two women in sex acts and dangling a woman from a balcony. The latest indictment clarifies the alleged racketeering conspiracy, including kidnapping, drug-related crimes going back to 2004, not only back to 2008, which was previously alleged in the indictment. And then on September 16th, Combs was obviously arrested outside a Manhattan hotel on federal charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs has been denied bail twice, and the judge basically came out and said, no, he is a serious risk of engaging in witness tampering, so he is not going to let him out. Combs' legal team had sought home detention with GPS monitoring in exchange, and they also offered to post a $50 million bond, and the judge said that's not enough. Combs has had a rough streak there for a while, and back in March of last year, federal authorities raided Combs' home in Holmby Hills in California and in Miami. There was also indicated that the raid was in connection to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation, obviously that resulted in his arrest months later. Should have run. Anyway, the reported raids also occurred 4 months after his ex-girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura, accused him of sex trafficking and sexual abuse. And in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, she alleged that Combs drugged her and forced her to have sex with other men. The pair settled that lawsuit just a day after it was filed. Then in May, a video surfaced showing Combs assaulting Miss Ventura at a California hotel back in 2016. Once that video was released, Combs put out a video expressing his remorse for his behavior, and it mentioned that the criminal charges were going to be filed that same week against Mr. Combs. 2 more accusers came forward a week after Ventura's lawsuit. One of the women claims Combs drugged and sexually assaulted her at a Syracuse university, as well as Combs denied those allegations. And a third accuser, Lisa Gardner, made similar allegations against him. In that case, Gardner claimed that Combs and a singer-songwriter drugged and her and a friend following an Uptown Records event back in 1990. Now, Ms. Gardner says that she was 16 at the time of the incident, and she also accused Combs of choking her a day after the assault. Then footage of the 2016 assault was publicized. 2 more women filed lawsuits against Combs. One of those women was April Lampros, a New York Fashion Institute of Technology student who reportedly met Combs back in 1994. Miss Lampros accused Combs of sexually assaulting her on 4 instances between the mid-1990s and the early 2000s. Lampros claims that Combs promised to mentor her and connect her with executives in the fashion industry. Instead, Combs allegedly forced her to drink before sexually assaulting her in a hotel room. Now, Ms. Lampros recalled another instance in which Combs forced her to perform oral sex on her in a parking garage while a parking attendant watched. Combs has been accused of committing or facilitating sexual abuse in at least 30 separate civil lawsuits, including one filed in October, which alleges he and Jay-Z, a 13-year-old girl in New York in 2000. Most recently, Jay-Z filed for the lawsuit to be dismissed. Combs' federal trial is set to begin in May. However, that may be continued in light of the superseding indictment. Next, arrests are made in the D.C. plane crash. That's right. 2 employees of the airport authority that manages the Ronald Reagan National Airport were arrested over their alleged involvement in leaking surveillance footage last week's deadly mid-air collision, and they gave it to CNN. So the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority staffers are accused of making an unauthorized copy of records and face charges of computer trespass, according to the agency. The legal trouble is tied to the video obtained by CNN last week that offered a little more graphic vantage point in the crash over the Potomac River. Now, the collision last Wednesday between a Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines passenger jet killed 67 people on both of the aircraft, and the video gave a closer and clearer look at the air disaster, including one clip in which the chopper is darting from the left side of the screen as the American Airlines flight approaches the airport on final approach. A second short clip shows the Black Hawk, which was carrying 3 soldiers, and the Bombardier jet heading towards each other before the 2 smash and explode. Both videos were shot on the cell phone. Mohammed Laramie Bagunji of Rockville, Maryland was charged, and Jonathan Savoy of Upper Marlboro, Maryland was also charged. Bagungi was booked into the Arlington County Adult Detention Center and later released, while Savoy was issued a summons and then released. The authority was created by Congress more than 30 years ago and is tasked in part with operating the airport. Officials began raising the wreckage of the American Airlines flight Monday, as most victim bodies have been recovered from the river. After a part of the plane was taken to shore, the Black Hawk chopper will be recovered. The military helicopter was carrying Army Rebecca Loback, Chief Warrant Officer 2 Andrew Eves, and Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hara. Needless to say, an investigation is ongoing. Next, courtroom decorum. What you should not do, but you may say, worth it. That's what happened. Take a look at this crazy video. It shows a shackled murder suspect being chased down and attacked in court by the dead woman's uncle, who said it was worth every moment once he was arrested. Alexander Ortiz was appearing before a judge in Albuquerque, New Mexico on Friday for a procedural hearing related to the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Aliana Farfan, whom he was accused of shooting dead in her bedroom last year. He is also charged with murdering another woman a week later. Now, as he stands beside his attorney, a man in the gallery, later identified as Farfan's uncle, a guy by the name of Carlos Lucera, hops over the bar and rushes Ortiz. Now, despite the suspect turning and running, the court's security was nearby and appears to take him to the floor and starts throwing punches. During the melee, another man identified as Pete Yassi also runs from the gallery and joins the attack, seemingly throwing a kick at the suspect just a little bit off screen there. Now, the suspect's father, Yoray Ortiz, then calmly walks up and begins throwing punches in an attempt to break up the fight. Police officer rushes in to help as lawyers and other defendants and members of the public watch and little bit of surprise before it's ultimately broken up. Ortiz, who is accused of being abusive to his ex before she was killed, suffered cuts to his face, and he's going to survive. Both Lucero and Yassi were charged with assault and battery on a peace officer. Not immediately clear how Yassi was connected to the case. Now, Lucero later told the police that Ortiz killed my niece like a coward, and it was worth every moment of assaulting him in court. Ortiz is charged with killing Farfan at her apartment back in January of last year. Friends in the apartment heard a gunshot, then found her shot in the face after busting down the door. Ortiz allegedly fled through a window, and Ortiz is additionally a suspect in the murder of Nicole Maldonado at the Adam Food Market on January 17th, 2024, there in Albuquerque. He was arrested by a SWAT team, and they tracked him down to his residence. He was accused of Farfan and Maldonado's murder, as well as a number of other charges related to their deaths. Worth it, apparently. How many people that are victims or just people of the public would like to do that to lots of defendants? A lot. You always got to be a little, have your back covered when you're in court and family members show up. You just never know what will take place. Next, Michael Jordan's son is accused of a DUI and obtaining or possessing a white powdery substance. Michael Jordan's son, Marcus Jordan, was arrested for DUI and cocaine possession after he allegedly got into his Lamborghini drunk and struck a train that was on a railroad track in Florida. Now, he was arrested in the early morning hours of Tuesday and booked into the Orange County Jail after the night out. His bond was set at $4,000, and obviously here's a picture of him leaving court on Tuesday. Now, the Maitland Police Department said officers noticed Marcus's headlights on the railroad tracks, and when they approached the SUV, they noticed the bumper damage and the kick-up rocks, which suggested Marcus had been trying to flee but could not. Police suspected Marcus had just fled a nearby traffic stop, though Marcus allegedly claimed he had taken a wrong turn and needed help to get his car off the tracks. Officers noted a strong smell of alcohol, slurred speech, and bloodshot, watery eyes. Then Marcus allegedly admitted to having been at a gentleman's club and drinking alcohol before his arrest. Needless to say, he insisted his BAC was lower than the legal limit of .08. However, police say he failed 3 sobriety tests before he was placed under arrest. And officers wrote the report they found a white powdery substance in Marcus' pocket, which that white powdery substance apparently tested to be positive for cocaine. You got to watch out for those railroad tracks, ladies and gentlemen. People get high-centered on them. I once had a client get high-centered on some railroad tracks, and when the police showed up the next day, client was sleeping it off a little ways away, just happened to find his dead wife in the back of the car. Kind of a weekend at Bernie's thing. Drove around with her for a while in the back seat. Let's say she got thrown around a little bit when she was being bounced around over the railroad tracks. So remember that. If you're going to commit crime, don't go towards the railroad tracks. Just kidding. It was a joke. Don't commit crime, okay? And always be careful crossing railroad tracks. Look both ways, all right? Next, Sam Bankman Fried. Well, his parents are trying to get him a pardon. That's right. The former crypto billionaire Sam Bankman Fried is trying to get a pardon from President Donald Trump. The parents of the FTX co-founder have reportedly met with lawyers and others close to the president, seeking for a little clemency for their son, who has a 25-year sentence to serve in federal prison for fraud. Now, his parents, both Stanford Law School professors, Joseph Bankman and Barbara Fried, are exploring the possibilities of a Trump pardon. Now, Bankman Fried hopes the possible pardon may be helped by the president's support of cryptocurrency and by the fact that the judge at the fraudster's trial was Judge Louis A. Kaplan, who was also the federal judge in the sexual assault and defamation lawsuits brought by E. Jean Carroll against Trump, where that $500 million judgment was imposed. I don't think that particular point will have much sway with the president either way. Anyway, the people are bringing up the fact that Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht, founder of the dark web marketplace Silk Road, who was jailed for life just about a decade ago. And it raised their hopes that they would consider freeing their white-collar criminal son. Anyway, Bankman Fried has claimed his sentence imposed back in 2024 was draconian because FTX clients got back the money that they lost. That's not really the issue. The issue is fraud. Yeah, probably a little draconian because they did get their money back because the price went up. So what can you do? Anyway, the collapse of his crypto exchange exposed a $10 billion fraud. The Bankman Fried insisted that he was just a victim of a market downturn. And I have always said that in any white-collar case like that, I've always said that there should be a defense for any white-collar case. It's called greed, that everybody ignored everything that was taking place because they were greedy and they wanted to see a big return. And it didn't turn out well, so then everybody calls fraud. On another point, just don't take other people's money. Lots safer that way. Anyway, the Sam Bankman-Fried, as you may recall, donated to lots and lots of people with D's behind their name in Washington, D.C., but he never donated to the Trump campaign. Like I said, he was a big Democrat donor, but he is hopeful the president now and his advisors are considering the case as a political prosecution. Now, Bankman Fried's top lieutenant, who also took a deal, Ryan Salame, is also planning a pardon. If anyone pays attention for half a second, a lot of this doesn't make any sense. He said after being jailed last year for 7.5 years for campaign finance law violations. Trump advisors apparently told people, if you come seeking a pardon, do not bring anything with sex crimes, crimes of violence, or illegal immigration cases. We'll see what happens. Somehow I don't think SBF is going to get a pardon. Maybe he'll get a little clemency, maybe knock off a couple of decades or something. I don't know. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, on February 4th, 1789, George Washington unanimously elected as the first president. That's right, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States by the Electoral College. And obviously that established the executive branch of the United States government under the United States Constitution, a totally radical thing at the time where people actually elected their leaders. They weren't born into their leadership role. It was a radical idea. And the fact that we're still around doing it is even more radical of an idea. Next, on this day in 1997, O.J. Simpson was found liable in a civil trial. That's right, a civil jury in Santa Monica, California found O.J. Simpson liable for the wrongful death of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Robert Goldman, and they were awarded $33.5 million. Now, obviously, this highlights the differences between criminal and civil trials, particularly the lower burden of proof in a civil case. And needless, it started a big debate about the criminal justice system. But you must remember that O.J. Simpson has paid nearly nothing of that judgment because he's been trying to avoid it by moving to Florida, which has very generous debtor protections under the law. And the Goldman estate is still trying to get money out of now O.J. Simpson's estate since he passed away last year. And next, on February 4th, 1794, the legislature of France abolished slavery throughout the territories of the French Republic. That practice was reinstated, though, by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1804, before being banned permanently in 1814 after Bonaparte was exiled. As of 2001, slavery is defined as a crime against humanity under French law. And then on this day in 1913, late civil rights activist Rosa Parks, who became famous in 1956 for refusing to give up her seat to the white man and not go to the back of the bus on a Montgomery, Alabama bus, was born in Tuskegee, Alabama. There you go. And finally, our dumb criminal of... A Florida man turned his creepy dad over to police after he allegedly found nearly 1,000 files of inappropriate child images on his dad's phone while fixing his Google account, which was locked because of the photos that Google found on his account. Anyway, the Kenneth City Police Department arrested Gene Follin, Follin, who allegedly confessed to the police that he knowingly possessed these images that also included child erotica back on January 28th of last month, according to the arrest affidavit. fallen's son, Jared, informed the police of the discovery of his father's phone on September 10th of 2024. And the older fallen had asked his son to help him access his Gmail account after being told it was disabled because of sexual explicit images of children. A month later, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children set a tip to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force after the Google account was flagged for uploading child porn. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If they tell you it's flagged for child porn, you probably don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Even better yet, don't look at it. It'll get you sent to prison, ladies and gentlemen. Bad, bad, bad. Anyway, Mr. Fallen, you are a dumb criminal of the day. All right, that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching. Please join us tonight, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, for our live, and we'll answer all the questions of everything you want to talk about, and maybe a little bit of what I want to talk about. We'll see you then. And remember, the Constitution matters.